Have you ever felt a presence when you're completely alone? That chilling sensation on the back of your neck, the feeling of being watched when no one is there. I used to be a skeptic. I'd laugh at ghost stories and roll my eyes at paranormal shows. But that all changed one October when I moved into a house that, well, didn't want me to leave. This isn't just a spooky story. This is what happened to me. This is the truth behind the haunted house that changed my life forever. It was an old Victorian house on the edge of town, the kind you see in movies. It was beautiful, a little run down, but it had character. I got it for a steal, and at the time, I just thought I was lucky. The first few days were normal. Unpacking boxes, painting walls, the usual chaos of moving. It was on the third night that things started to get weird. I was in the living room, surrounded by boxes when I heard it. Footsteps. Clear as day from the floor above me. Thump, thump, thump. Pacing back and forth in the master bedroom. I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. I yelled out, "Hello? Is someone up there?" Silence. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a cast iron pan, and crept up the stairs. The hallway was dark, and every creak of the floorboards under my feet sounded like a gunshot. I pushed open the bedroom door. Nothing. The room was empty, exactly as I left it. I told myself it was just the house settling, old pipes, the wind, anything to rationalize it. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The next day, things escalated. I was making coffee in the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow dart across the doorway. It was tall and thin, just a flicker, and then it was gone. I spun around, but again, nothing. Later that afternoon, I was hanging a picture in the hallway when I felt an ice-cold breath on my neck. It was so real, so distinct, that I dropped the hammer and spun around, fully expecting to see someone standing right behind me. The air was still and empty. That's when the real fear started to set in. This wasn't just a creaky old house. Something was here with me. That night, I tried to sleep, but it was impossible. I kept hearing whispers, faint and muddled, like a conversation happening just outside my door. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was angry. I pulled the covers over my head like a little kid, my body trembling. The bedroom door, which I had locked, began to rattle violently in its frame. It wasn't a gentle shake. It was as if someone was on the other side, desperately trying to get in. By the 5th day, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept. I was barely eating, and I was constantly on edge. Objects started moving on their own. My keys would vanish from the hook by the door, only to reappear in the middle of the living room floor. A book I was reading flew off the nightstand and slammed against the far wall. The scariest part was the rocking chair in the corner of the living room. It was an antique that came with the house. I'd walk into the room and find it rocking back and forth, slowly, rhythmically, as if someone had just gotten up from it. There was no draft, no open window. It just rocked. I started talking to it, to whatever it was. I begged it to leave me alone. I asked what it wanted. The only response I got was the temperature dropping suddenly, the air growing thick and heavy. The final straw came on the 7th night. I had decided I couldn't stay there another minute. I was packing a bag in a frenzy, throwing clothes and essentials into a duffel bag, when all the lights in the house went out simultaneously. The entire block still had power, just my house was plunged into absolute darkness. And then I heard a laugh. It wasn't a human laugh. It was low, guttural, and filled with malice, echoing from the end of the hall. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once. I screamed. I didn't even grab my bag. I bolted for the front door, fumbling with the lock in the dark, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the knob. The door, which had worked perfectly fine all week, was stuck. It wouldn't budge. It felt like it was being held shut from the other side. Panic took over. I threw my shoulder against it again and again, screaming for help, even though I knew no one could hear me. The whispering started again, but this time it was loud, right in my ear. A single clear word, stay. I don't know how I got the door open. Maybe it was adrenaline, maybe the entity let go. But suddenly the lock clicked, the door flew open, and I stumbled out into the cold night air. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran down the street and didn't stop until the house was out of sight. I never went back. I left everything behind, my furniture, my clothes, my pictures. None of it was worth it. I later did some research on the house. Turns out, a man had lived there alone in the early 1900s. He was a recluse who, according to town records, refused to leave his property and became incredibly hostile to anyone who came near it. He died in the house, alone. It seems his spirit decided to stay, making sure no one else would ever feel welcome in his home. That experience followed me. For months afterward, I'd see shadows in the corner of my eye. I hear faint whispers when I was alone. It was like a piece of that house, a piece of that entity, had latched onto me. It took a long time and a lot of help from people who understand these things to finally feel safe again, to feel like I was truly alone. I'm sharing this story not just to scare you, but as a warning. Some places have a history, an energy that you can't see but you can definitely feel. And sometimes, when you walk into a haunted house, you might not be the only one who walks out. The ghost that followed me home eventually faded. But the memory of that week will never ever leave me. So what do you think? Was it just an old house playing tricks on an overactive imagination? Or did I really spend a week with a territorial spirit? Let me know your own spooky experiences in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about the unexplainable, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for listening and stay safe out there.